Command here, and today I'm going to be playing
It started
Dead
as a
Frontier
normal day,
Outbreak.
just like
I'm
any
gonna
other.
see if I can survive
I
this
took a shower
zombie
and grabbed a quick
apocalypse.
cup of coffee before heading out of the front door and waving goodbye to my loving wife. I jumped on board the
Alrighty.
bus, sat down, turned on my MP3 player, and promptly entered my usual
That's what I
daydream
do every
state.
day.
I finally arrived at my office building, headed up the 10th floor, and sat down at my desk to see a huge pile of paperwork. I sighed and got started.
Shit.
A scream coming from down the hall broke my concentration. I considered going to see what it was, but the
I don't do
thought quickly
paperwork, I
passed.
just leave that stuff for others.
Probably just another hysterical secretary overreacting to a spider. Just as I started getting back to work, something else grabbed my attention. I peered out the window into the street below,
Alright guys, time to
and
get
my
serious.
astonishment, saw a scene of utter chaos.
What are my
People
options?
fighting, even killing each other for seemingly no reason. By this time, some of my coworkers had gotten up from their desks and joined me in staring
I've
out the
played a
window.
lot of zombie games, but this is different. This is the real deal. Alright, so I'm probably
Radio
gonna turn on
began
the radio.
blurting out all
'cause that
kinds
makes
of
the most amount
information.
sense.
It said that a new breed of
I
virus had
customized
been
it.
discovered, one that would change its victims into a homicidal
Customized it,
maniac.
built it into my cell phone.
This virus was highly contagious and spreading rapidly. Their advice was to stay where I was, and that if I were to encounter an infected person, I should try to destroy their brain.
Yeah,
At
as
this
if life
point, I
wasn't
felt
hard
myself
enough, eh?
entering a state of mild shock.
Alrighty.
It was obvious that whatever was going on was serious,
Destroyed
and that a
infected brain,
significant percentage of the
survive.
population were going to be killed or wounded over the course of the next few days. My thoughts
home,
quickly turned to my
Make love
wife.
to my wife.
Was she okay? What if these maniacs were near
I
our
make
home?
myself something to eat. Let's do it. Oh, we're
I
about
knew
to
that
find
the phone
out.
lines would most likely be overwhelmed, so I decided not to waste time by calling. I headed
Don't
straight
call,
home.
I'm just gonna leave the office, see if she's alright.
I began to make my way through a series
Not
of
gonna wait
corridors
around.
that lead to the elevator. On my way, I noticed
the
a
window,
struggle
man.
out of the corner of my
A
eye.
man of action.
I turned to see a disfigured man frantically clawing at and biting a young woman's leg. Blood was already pouring from her multiple wounds. The woman cried out for me to help her.
Ah, hell no. Sorry, lady, you're on your own.
I continued down the
No,
hallway,
I'm just not gonna take that
ignoring
chance.
the woman's
I
cries
gotta
for
survive
help.
and make it through
She
this.
would have been infected, and it wasn't
Sorry.
worth the risk.
There's no sense in calling for help because
I arrived at the elevator,
Nobody's gonna come
but to my
anyways.
dismay, it seemed many other people had the same
Exactly.
idea.
she's
I
already
heard a
infected,
ping,
guys.
and the elevator doors slid open.
I gotta bolt
In a
and get
split
out of here.
second, the large crowd of office staff pushed and
Just a
shoved
bunch
their
of
way into the
sardines.
tiny metal box.
Jamming themselves into a tin box.
I quickly made my way down the stairs to the ground floor. Sure, I was a little out of breath, but at least I
Stairs,
saved
yeah.
time
I'm gonna take that
and avoided
option.
a potentially lethal
I'm
situation.
not gonna get infected and stranded
I
inside the
eventually
elevator.
reached the
Help!
ground floor and
Help me!
entered the lobby. The scene in front of me was one of extreme violence.
There's a zombie in
The
here.
security team was desperately battling with a swarm of infected, and they appeared to be losing. I watched helplessly as a guard on the
Fantastic, 'cause
opposite
you know on
side
the
of the
ground
room
floor
was
it's gotta
torn
be
limb
obviously
from
worse than the
limb.
10th floor.
I
There's all
noticed his
reaction
gun
and
lying
stuff's
on the
going
floor
down
just
on
a
the
few
bottom.
meters away from his dismembered corpse.
Toss me your gun.
I managed to slip away
Run
without
for
any
it.
infected noticing and proceeded
Make a
quickly
dash
towards
for
the rear
main
exit.
Nah. I'm gonna
I
slip
made
into
my
the
way
side
through several corridors towards the back of the
like a
building.
ninja.
As I approached the rear entrance, I spotted a hefty padlock across the bolt, making it
I
practically
just want to get out of the
impossible to open
building
without
as
a key.
fast as possible.
cursed my bad luck and
Infection's
tried to
taking
figure
over.
out my next
Everybody's
move.
dying.
The janitor would have had the
Stuff's
key,
getting
but
real
reaching his
crazy.
office would have required going back towards the lobby.
I just gotta get out of here. Priority number 1. Cover your ass in the zombie apocalypse.
I realized that breaking the door down would be impossible,
Alright, go to the
and that
janitor's
heading
office, try
back
to
would
wait
be
it
too
out.
dangerous.
No,
So I
it's
set
too
about
late now.
searching
Can't
for
go
another
back.
exit.
I gotta get out of here.
I remembered that there was a small
Suicidal
window in the
heading
male
back.
bathroom
Guess I
just a
can't
few
head back.
doors down the corridor. I arrived at the bathroom door and pushed it
Alrighty.
open. Suddenly, I heard a
Yes!
bestial roar coming from further down the
Yeah!
corridor. A dozen infected
I
had
hope I made the
spotted
right
me
choice.
and were now heading in my direction. I quickly entered the stall and spotted the window I was
Oh, let me
thinking
guess.
of.
Zombies.
However, to my dismay, it was much smaller than I had remembered.
Man.
I thought that I would probably fit, but I knew it was
If there's
going
two
to be a
things I
very
hate in
tricky
life, guys,
maneuver.
it's snakes and zombies. No, I'm gonna have to just cram myself through. Just pork my
Not
way through
wanting to
that
waste
window.
time, I set about trying
Hopefully
to
I've been
squeeze through the window.
Eating a lot, been
A
up
few
on that
awkward
eating
movements
Slim
and a lot
Jim
of
and
pain
whatnot.
later, I managed to force my way into the
Exercising
street,
and-
escaping
See,
the
guys, this
infected
is
with
the
only a
reason why
few
you
seconds to
exercise.
spare.
To fit through small windows if a zombie apocalypse
I
ever
dropped
happens.
from the window and landed on the pavement with a heavy thud.
Whew.
Looking
That's
up and
right
down
down to
the
the
quiet
wire.
back street, I
With
tried to
just
decide
a
what
few
to do
seconds
next.
left.
Eventually, I came to the
Hopefully, guys,
conclusion
I'm a
that my
survivor
best
in a
bet
real
was to head
zombie
to a main
apocalypse.
road
Hope it never
and try to
happens, but if
steal a
it does,
vehicle or catch a lift.
just give me
I
some
jogged
tips
down
on
the
how to
quiet
survive.
street for a few hundred feet before stopping to catch
Seriously,
my
I
breath.
need some good advice.
I looked up briefly and saw a little girl wandering aimlessly in the middle
me
of
to
the
go
road.
down to fire range and start popping off a few rounds. I gotta learn how to fire a gun in
I
real life.
realized that the girl was most likely infected.
Playing too many of those video
Therefore,
games, I
I
don't think they'd
decided to
really
ignore
help
her
in a
and
real
continue
outbreak,
down the
but
street.
you never know. Video games, they come in handy. Trigger
I
finger.
eventually arrived at the main road. As I suspected,
Obviously,
the
man, you
scene
got a
wasn't
wandering
pretty.
girl down the
In every
walk in the
direction,
middle
I
of the
could see
street.
people
Sure,
either
like,
trying
she'd
to
survive.
fight or
No
flee
way,
from
man.
the numerous
I'm just booking
infected.
it.
An array of dismembered corpses
Gotta
already
get home
littered
to the
the
missus.
streets. I suddenly felt nauseous, and within a few moments I was vomiting my breakfast all over the pavement. I wiped my mouth with my sleeve and looked up to see a bus driving down the street.
Oh, nasty.
The number was the same
That's
as the
just
one I
sick.
usually took home.
Keep it
There
in.
appeared to be a lot
You're a
of people
man.
on board already, but I thought I
don't
might be
vomit.
able to squeeze in. I realized that getting on the crowded bus probably wasn't a good idea.
No way.
If
This is
someone
like
on
the
board were
elevator
infected,
incident. No,
then
I'm
there would
not,
have been
I'm not
no
risking
escape.
it. I'm just gonna keep on booking it non-stop. I'm not
continued
getting
down the
inside
street,
no bus.
I noticed several groups of people.
Jam-packed like the elevators.
Just
Ah, there's an
across the
infected!
road was a group of men with rifles. They appeared to be having fun shooting the zombies rather than trying to escape.
Alright, let's see what's
In
going
the
on
alley,
here.
I
Let's see
could
what
just
the
about see a
commotion's all
group of
about.
teenage boys
Got
armed with
gunfire
a variety
echoing in
of
the
makeshift
distance.
melee weapons. A few meters from where
This
I
is
was
serious.
standing, a paramedic and an armed police officer were
survive.
helping a wounded man, and as
You
I
gotta
glanced
survive.
over my shoulder, I saw a group of survivors from my office building, heading in the same direction.
Paramedic and the armed police officer sounds
I
really
decided that it was
tempting,
probably
but with
best
a
to
wounded
team
man,
up
I don't know
with
if
other
he's infected. I don't
survivors.
know the story behind that. Don't know these people. I'm just gonna go with my probably
Jogged
fellow
over to the group
coworkers,
of
since
my
you know them
fellow
from work.
coworkers. They seemed
They
happy
got
to see me.
they got your back. You got your own back during the apocalypse.
I told the group that I thought
Dang
we
it!
should
But
try to
that
find
group
some
of
transportation
armed
to get out of the
survivors that
city
are just having the
center.
time of their life.
One of them
It's
suggested
such
we go
it would
to
be
the
probably
parking
such a
area
blast
a
just
few
to go
blocks
with
down.
them and start shooting off. Maybe
We
one of them
quickly
gives you a
agreed
gun,
to
you
our
start
strategy
popping off.
and made our way
Zombies
down the
putting
street.
caps in their asses, but
As we
realistically
approached the
speaking,
car
when the bullets
parking
run out
area,
and
we
when
noticed
tempers
a few
flare,
infected
that's not the
wandering
group you want
idly
to be
around
with.
the
So
entrance.
I'm just
There
gonna
was no real way to
probably say
avoid
no.
them.
I don't in the end get probably ambushed, but I decided to play it safe. And teenagers, I don't know. I was a teenager, they'd probably leave me for dead. I know I would. If I wasn't trying to save my own ass during the zombie apocalypse. Alrighty, so I'm definitely not going to be the
After
guinea pig
some
in this. I'm
heated
going to send somebody
discussion,
else. A
somebody
brave
from the group
volunteer.
eventually stepped up. He
Sacrifice
began
themselves.
making such a noise as he could, running in circles around the infected. My plan worked and they began to follow him away from the entrance. The rest of us swiftly made our way
Let us not
inside and
forget our
began to
brave
search for
hero.
a suitable vehicle.
Until we
We
get
were so
those
wrapped
vehicles.
in what we were doing that we forgot about our brave volunteer.
No, I would,
We
but
never saw
I don't
him
think I'd
again.
make it back. Just don't want to take that
We
chance.
eventually
and risk.
found a few different options for vehicles in which we could make our escape. On
That's
the far
down to
side
a
of the
brave
parking
volunteer who
area,
never
we
came
found a
back. I hope
pair
he
of road
survived, but
motorbikes. Closer
doesn't
to
seem
us
like
was a
he did.
four-wheel drive all-terrain Jeep, a large freight truck, and a convertible sports car.
Got my own personal garage here, it seems. I'm gonna go with